On a scale of 1 to 10, what's the surest you've ever been to any moment that something absolutely sinister was looking straight at you? I'd rate my experience early tonight at about an 8. I was driving home from my parents' house around 10 PM. They only live about 10 minutes drive from me, but what a difference 10 minutes makes. They're out in the country, no street lights, it's Michigan in the middle of winter, and I'd make the terrific decision to take a relatively unkept road home. The same road where I collided with a deer not 2 months ago, instantly vaporizing my Christmas fund. It's the deer central out there. Well, I was headed down this road at about half the speed limit. I LP'd for some four-legged white-tailed terrors, and my eyes started to get a bit strained by the headlights of an oncoming vehicle. It's at least half a mile away, but the high beams are on. I guessed it was a truck, though I didn't want to look too close and then be blinded by some furry wrecking machine sauntering out in front of me, so I kept my eyes to the side of the road as much as I dared. As I got closer, I realized I was right. It was a pickup truck, but it wasn't headed towards me. It was parked on the shoulder, and emergency lights were blinking. I slowed down even more, waiting to see the telltale signs of a deer collision: imploded grille, cracked windshield, missing side mirror, and obviously a deer corpse. Once I was alongside the pickup, I hadn't seen any damage. Now that I was out of the light's glare, I could see that the truck was pulling a horse trailer. The trailer must have been wired in, because the red lights in the back were blinking on and off with time with the emergency lights of the truck. I rolled down my window to talk to whoever was in the cab, but once I looked closer, I realized the truck was empty. "Hello?" I called. No answer. And then I heard scampering and thumping. It sounded like someone slamming an upside-down bowl into the surface repeatedly. It was coming from behind the trailer. I looked at my windshield and saw a loop of rope making up part of a knot around a handle on the back of the trailer. I couldn't see the rest of the rope, but the knot seemed to be sliding up and down on the handle bit. I inched forward in my car, peering around the corner of the trailer. Sudden movement startled me, and then I realized what an idiot I was. The rope led to a harness fastened to a horse. The large brown creature was scampering around and stomping its hooves on the ground, standing close to the ditch, stretching its rope across the back of the trailer. As I pulled further, it glanced at me, snorted, and then went back to stomping. Thinking I was probably irritating it, knowing there were no other cars for miles, I switched off my headlights. It kept stomping. I looked at the ground around its hooves. The snow was tossed up, and in some spots, the horse had chipped off bits of the dirt shoulder. It had been out here a while. "Hello?" I called again, fully expecting response from the dark fields of the other side of the ditch. Nothing. I looked at the horse again. Steam shot from its nostrils, and I looked back at his hooves, and the ground around them. I'm no Boy Scout, but fresh snow makes it fairly easy to piece simple stories together, and the brief flashing intervals of dim, red lights afforded me my trailer. I was easily able to make out the boot prints alongside the trailer, obviously coming from the cab. They turned to be led along the back of the trailer, then into the ditch, past the bubble of red light. There were the same boot prints coming up from the ditch, accompanied by hoof prints. Presumably this guy's horse had gotten out of his barn or nearby pasture, and he was out here to retrieve it. That was my Columbo moment. Then there was this whole area in between the horse and the side of the trailer closest to me. I could see the boot prints, but they weren't in a straight line. They seemed to be all over the place, pointing everywhere, like a person jumping around or hopping from one foot to the next, and mixed in with them were other prints. The new prints looked a bit like the inside of a peace sign, a Y with an extra line between the forked lines, about twice their length. There was no real sole or pad, but each toe, if you could call it that, was thick and at least a couple inches wide. And at the end of each toe print, including a long rear protrusion, the handle of a fork, I suppose, the snow seemed to have flown into it. Not an imprint, really. It's more like a slit, like from a claw. These prints were as mixed up as the boot prints were, but they tended to stay closer to the road. Whatever made them, the guy wearing the boots would have to get past them to get back to the cab. Out from the mess of prints, both human and, I guess, animal will do, erupted a straight line of boot prints, with long strides, heading along the back road, away from the truck and trailer, past the edge of the red light, that continued into the darkness, and I knew it would be uninterrupted with the first street light mile away. The other prints were mixed in with these ones, weaving in and out of the same line, in other words, following. The strides were at least as long as the boot man's. I stole one more look at the horse, still clearly agitated, and the prints were right behind the trailer. Now, obviously, snow being white, and the trailer's pulsing lights being red, all of the snow and range of the lights were going to be red, but I knew it wasn't my imagination that some patches, here and there, were different shades of red than the rest. And with the dim light and the horse's dark fur, it was hard to be sure, but there were a few lines of glistening down the animal's side. I like to think I'm not a stupid man. I saw no benefit in staying here to play detective. I decided to distance myself from the horse, trailer, truck and prince. I flipped my lights on and started rolling away. The horse never stopped staring at me. I swear, it had the closest thing I'd ever seen to an animal, an expression of a homeless man who hasn't gotten a penny all day. But as I pulled forward, I wasn't able to take my eyes off all the footprints and whatever prints were on the side of the road. But 10 feet past where the red light would have ended, there was another scuffle. Both sets of prints mashed together, definitely a couple spots of dark pink snow, and then just boot prints, continuing the journey. But off to one side, they left behind a much larger imprint, roughly human-sized. There were shapes on both sides of the body. They were wide and somewhat wrinkled, like the imprint of a jacket a child would leave after laying in the snow. They fanned out from the main body, leaving drag marks, like something unfurling. They were also ribbed. I admit I was only viewing them in the passing, but I swear I knew what I saw. It was hard to describe exactly, but thinking back, it's like comparing that shape to a snow angel. They seemed wrong in more ways than one. I kept moving, picking up a bit of speed, but I was still going fairly slow, so my tires wouldn't burn on the snow and ice. I could see the three-toed prints moving in a larger shape back to the chase, just for a few feet, and then just ended. The brute prints carried on for another 40 feet or so, then they ended too. At this point, I had to stop. I don't mean that I really decided that I wanted to. It's like my brain just needed to verify that I was seeing this right. 2 sets of prints, one human, one not, both just ending. No sign of change of course, or a dive in the ground, or anything. Pure, untouched snow on all sides. Well, not totally undisturbed. I think something in my brain was just misfiring at that point, trying to make it all fit. So I looked back once at the trailer and truck, highlighted in blinking red aura. I could see the horse just still watching me. And then, in the road ahead of the truck, something shifted. It was the truck's headlights. They bounced. The truck's trail lights also bounced. Just a slight dip towards the ground, then back up. Like the pressure on the suspension. The trailer shifted a touch. Now the horse wasn't looking at me. It was looking at the blank space above the truck and trailer, the spot on the roof of the trailer that no light could reach, and it was straining against the rope harder than I'd ever seen anything fight in my life. My tires burned out briefly before they found traction. So that was my 8 moment. I really lost count of how many times on the way home I nearly slid into a ditch. I went sideways once, but I always kept in control, using some combination of luck and sheer force of will not to get stranded on the road tonight. Now I'm in my driveway, and I'm wishing my garage door was working, because right now I'm having a 10 moment. The porch light is illuminating a portion of the roof on one wing of my house. All around me, freshly fallen snow was undisturbed. But in that one little corner of the roof, I could just make out a pair of imprints smearing the scene. I probably don't have to describe them to you. My front door is maybe 30 feet away. 30 feet? I'm wondering if I should try sleeping in the car tonight.
Thank you for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe to Mr. Green and check out all of his social medias down below. My name Goda.